So there's generally, if you got good jobs, you're going to go out and buy an extra big screen TV, a microwave, you're going to lease a car, buy a house. There's a ripple effect across the economy of at least 1 to 1. It's called an induced effect. So if we can develop 10,000 jobs in the city of Fresno, that's 20,000 jobs. Now, to put this in perspective, we currently have 40,000 unemployed people in Fresno. That's roughly 10%. If we can achieve the goal, and again, I am setting the bar very high, very high. If we can achieve my goal, we'll be at 20,000 jobs. Our unemployment rate will go from 10% to an unprecedented 5%. We have never, ever been at that level in the city of Fresno. This is transformative. And to do that, I have to make sure, my worst fear is that if we can produce the jobs, we have a labor supply. I call it a job supply train that supplies the jobs to these businesses. The good thing about it, like with Amazon or Ulta, Nordstrom's, is generally a 12 to 18 month ramp-up period. So I've been out talking to all the trainers. I've been to State Center. I went to State Center at Clovis. They had a new class of 200 people. Guess what? Robotic operations of a plant. Sounds pretty good for what we're looking for. I'm talking to Wick. I'm talking to Dr. Castro from Fresno State, and all the people that put jobs. So we're going to be precisely measure the job output and make sure local people get jobs, including those people on public assistance, to be truly transformative. So I've given you the vision, the roadmap, and these are the details how Fresno can change its entire trajectory. Because when you do something like this over time, there's a lot of other stuff going too, it's not going to be the same community we've ever had. And I've learned in private sector and in 8 years in business, there's talkers and there's doers. And 90% of us talk about things, but only about 10% actually doing. I will put all of my talents, all my passion, the resources that I have, the city of Fresno, and working collaboratively with all the partners we have out there to change the face of Fresno. And so with that, I'll take any answers, questions, answers, maybe a few answers. Anybody have any questions?
You talked about adding new police officers in with Jerry here. Are we able to find the police officers?
Well, it's been very challenging to hire anybody in law enforcement. The national climate has not exactly been conducive for people wanting to enter law enforcement. But we're working together. We're offering incentives. We have slowly raised our level. I think we're, correct me if I'm wrong, Chief, but we're about 770, and we have authorized for 804. Okay, we're getting. So my goal when I ran, I had campaign promises. I said I'd do a rental inspection program. I did that. I said I was going to be a public safety advisory board. I said I was going to bring a new full-time Office of Independent Review, which I have. And so I also said over my term here, my goal is to bring us up to 1,000 police officers, which is not going to be an easy task because I have to find a long-term sustainable funding source to get there. So that's still our goal. And again, for FY 2018, if we can successfully hire the people we're asking for, we're going to be at 824. We still need to go higher.
This is just an anecdotal observation, but there seems to be a proliferation of homeless folk on Blackstone. Do you have a plan that you are going to be implementing, have given some thought to? What are your thoughts on the issue?
Homelessness is a major problem here in Fresno, across California. It's a national problem. And in many ways, it's been driven partially by the state of California, Prop 47, Prop 57. Low-level drug users are taken out of state prison. They end up on the streets of Fresno and San Jose and Oakland, and some become homeless. It's a major problem, but again, this problem I will deal with during my time in office. This one definitely has to have partners. I have to work with Fresno County. They provide mental health services, substance abuse services. I need to work with Poverello House and all the different nonprofits out there, the faith-based community, and with Housing Authority. I was at an event last week with the opening of a veterans apartment complex across the street from Veterans Hospital. There's a count of 174 homeless veterans out there right now on the street. There'd be 40 less in about 6 months when they complete construction. So it's taken one step at a time. It'll take a lot of people working together. And I mean, realistically, we've probably, in the last 8 years to my predecessor, Ashley Swearingen, she was able to reduce homelessness by about half. My goal will be to continue to chip away at that, to bring it down. And this is a problem that faces everybody in the city. Every corner of the city, you're going to find homeless problems. But it's not an easy task, but I'll get the people assembled to do the job. Yes?
Hi, Mayor Brand. Thank you for being here. I'm interested in Fresno's brand. And what would you say, in your view, is Fresno's brand promise now? And then what is your vision for
when we had that
Fresno's
really unfortunate shooting a couple weeks ago, my biggest concern, here's Fresno. It's, of course, this were random killings that could happen anywhere. And my comments with Chief Dyer that day were, you cannot judge a city by one isolated act of violence when every single day there's thousands of acts of compassion and goodwill. This is a good city. We need to change that image. We're starting to change that image. Again, Nordstrom's came here, Amazon, Ulta. When's the last time we brought in 3,000 jobs in Fresno? How many decades we got to ever find that? We're starting to change the narrative, and it starts right here, Rotary clubs, people talking, and there's a lot of business people here. Because if I can achieve my vision of creating all these jobs over the next 8 to 10 years, everybody here and every business is going to benefit from it. And the city of Fresno will benefit from it, because you just take that industrial area, and I mentioned tax increment, is exponential. If you build out that entire area, you can have a couple billions of dollars in assessment. That translates back to the city in terms of its tax base on property taxes and sales taxes, business taxes, probably $10 to $15 million per year. You can buy a lot of police, you can fix a lot of potholes and build a few parks for that. As part of an overall strategy to lift Fresno from this narrative of generational poverty, high unemployment, high crime, I want to change that. And everybody's got to work together.
Fresno. And what I mean by that is that, as an example, my daughter, who is 26 years old, lives about a block and a half away from here in one of the townhomes. And all of her friends that she has live downtown, almost. But at the same time, you hear people more my age that say, oh, I don't want to go south of Herndon. And it's kind of funny about that, because really what it gets down to, how can we bring even more older people downtown, shall we say?
Old people like me? No. Well, that's a good question, because I think with the Bitwise has been a major catalyst for generating a tech hub downtown. They went from 5,000 square feet to 50,000 square feet in a couple of years. Are now looking to expand. Young people like the urban experience. In about 3 months or 2 months, we're going to open up Fulton Mall. You're going to see a major transformation downtown, because since the time 2 years ago when we approved the opening of Fulton Mall, there's been over $100 million invested by private investors within 2 years of that announcement. No matter what we do in government can't make the change. Government can only set the pattern. Everything is market driven. So for me, I've got to create the market conditions that will induce development, whether it's an industrial park, whether it's downtown. One thing I did mention was Fresno did land, we finished one of the rare times first, we landed a $70 million grant with the cap and trade. So the good news is we got the $70 million grant. The bad news is we had to qualify for the grant, we had to have the highest level of poverty and air quality. So that's Fresno. But this money is still being debated how this money is going to be spent. If the majority of the money will be spent within a mile or two of the high-speed rail station, that too will have a major impact on everything. It'll be invested in infrastructure. If you invest in infrastructure, which is one of the major obstacles in developing property, and you leverage private sector dollars 1 to 1 or 2 to 1, $70 million becomes $250,000. And again, that's transformative for downtown, elevating the entire tax base down there, making things more easy for people to, whether it be young people or old people. It's going to change. The whole face of Fresno will change. If you look at it 10 years ago, it's changed quite a bit already. I will say from 10 years from now, you won't recognize downtown and what's going on.
Thank you very much for being here. Thank you. Appreciate your comments. Thank you. Congratulations on your first 100 plus days. Good job. Thank you. All right, just a couple of things.